Good morning, dear boys and girls. Welcome again. We had already started this poem, Casabianca by Felicia Dorothy Hemings. But before we continue, I would like to just tell you a short story. Let us go first, a story on obedience. I want to relate it to this poem. But before we go there, let's start off with a story. Once, there were two birds, Mummy Bird and Daddy Bird. And they built their nest on the tree. And they had three little chicks. So one day, Mummy Bird and Daddy Bird went out to bring food for their babies. And they told the babies that there's a cat nearby. If it calls out, do not look, but stay silent. And they went away. The three chicks were playing in the nest when suddenly the cat came to the tree and sat down below the nest and was crying. So the cat said, I'm so lonely, I don't have anybody to play with. Can one of you chicks come and play with me? Now, the chicks knew that their father and mother had told them not to trust the cat. They said, no, we are not going to play with you. So he says, why? He says, because you're going to eat us up. He says, no, I don't eat my friends. I play with my friends. He says, no, we don't believe you. We don't trust you. But out of the three chicks, one little chick felt sad by the cat crying to be their friend. And the third little chick jumped out of his nest and fell to the ground. And in a snap of a second, the cat ate up the small baby. And then, in the meantime, the father bird and the mother bird returned to the nest and they saw one of the chicks missing. And then they asked what happened, and the other two chicks related the story. Now, if you observe from the story, one of those babies lost their lives because they were being disobedient. He disobeyed his mother and father. He jumped down from the nest in spite of being warned. So I want to relate the same thing with Casabianca. Basically, it's related to obedience, And he, Casabianca, was an obedient boy. Why? Because he stood on that burning deck waiting to leave, just waiting for his father's permission. But it never came as his father lay dead on that ship. Yeah, so coming to the poem Casabianca, written by Felicia Dorothy Hemings. What is this poem? It's basically an ode. In a poem, you have various categories that are there, or like a sonnet or an ode. What's an ode? Short poems which are lyrical, glorifying an event or praising a particular person. Praising a particular person here means, here the person being praised is Casabianca. Why? Because it speaks of the theme. What is the theme? Devotion and heroism. He had heroic blood in him. And he was devoted to his father. He had obedience. And that is where he, his father, and the ship perished in that burning ship. Right, so I'm going to recite this poem to you. This poem is very intense. It has a lot of intensity because there is devotion, there is courage involved here. I may not be fully able to judge it, but I'll try and do my best and make you feel the scene that is taking place on this ship with this boy, Casabianca. Let us begin. Page 98. Casabianca by Felicia Dorothea Hemings. The boy stood on the burning deck, whence all but he had fled. The flame that lit the battle's wreck shone round him o'er the dead. Yet beautiful and bright he stood, as born to rule the storm. A creature of heroic blood, a proud though childlike form. The flames rolled on, he would not go without his father's words. The father, faint in death below, his voice no longer heard. He called aloud, "Say, Father, say, if yet my task is done." He knew not that the chieftain lay unconscious of his son. "Speak, Father," once again he cried, "if I may yet be gone." And but the booming shots replied, and fast the flames rolled on. Upon his brow he felt their breath, and in his waving hair, and looked from that lone post of death in still yet brave despair, and shouted but once more aloud, "My father, must I stay?" While o'er him fast through sail and shroud the wreathing fires made way. They wrapped the ship in splendor while they caught the flag on high, and streamed above the gallant child like banners in the sky. There came a burst of thunder sound. The boy, oh, where was he? As of the winds that far around with fragments strewed the sea. With mast and helm and pennon fair, that well had borne their part, but the noblest thing which perished there was that young, faithful heart. I hope you enjoyed that recitation of mine. It's totally original, not copied from anywhere. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go stanza by stanza, and I'm going to explain each of these lines. And in each of these stanzas there are 4 lines. So I'll explain each line in detail so that you get a clear picture of what the poem is all about. So we start with the first stanza. The boy stood on the burning deck, whence all but he had fled. The flame that lit the battle's wreck shone round him o'er the dead. Here what it is, you see, in these lines, the poetess tells that Casabianca was standing on the board of the ship, which was on fire. And he was standing alone while all others had left the ship. And the flames of the fire began to engulf the ship. It began to rise. And these flames were shining over the dead bodies that lay on the burning deck. Now, if you see here, I have written some keywords for you, which is deck, which means a floor of a ship. You have vents. Poets use words which are very lyrical, and so they use the word, instead of from where, they use the word whence. So basically whence also means from where, and wreck here means destruction of a ship. Second stanza. Yet beautiful and bright he stood, as born to rule the storm, a creature of heroic blood, a proud though childlike form. So here in these, in the second stanza, these 4 lines, it says, what the poetess is telling is The boy stood on the board of the ship in spite of the burning flames. He looked very heartsome, courageous, tough in the light of these flames. It seemed that he was born to rule the storm. Here, born to rule the storm means he was born to govern. Here, storm means not the storm that you have of weather. Here, the storm means the battle that was going on. And he had that heroic blood. He was courageous, got it from his father. So he inherited nobility from his forefathers or from his father, who was Louis Casabianca, who was the commander of the French ship. And he looked brave and proud to carry out the command of his father, but yet in a childlike form. Childlike form means he was at a tender age, 13 years old, yet courageous. So we come to the third stanza, explanation of the third stanza. I'll recite it first. The flames rolled on, he would not go without his father's words. That father, faint in death below, his voice no longer heard. So here you see in the third stanza what the poetess is telling us, that the flames were rising. It was, engulfing the entire ship, and was coming towards Casabianca, who was standing alone there, waiting for the permission from his father. But alas, his father was already dead, and he lay faint in death below. Faint in death below here means that his father lay dead in the deck below. Now we come to the fourth stanza. Before we go to the explanation of the fourth stanza, let us read through the fourth stanza. He called aloud, "Say, father, say, if yet my task is done." He knew not that the chieftain lay unconscious of his son. So here the poetess is telling us that the boy standing on the burning deck, the flames rising, coming near him, he calls out to his father, "Say, father, say, if my task is done." Task here means the duty that was assigned to the boy to stand in that position. But the boy did not know that his father, who was the chieftain, who was the leader of the ship, who was the commander, captain of the ship, was unaware of the condition that was his son facing, because his father lay dead below the deck. Moving on to the fifth stanza, page number 99, next page. "Speak, father," once again he cried, "if I may yet be gone." And but the booming shots replied, and fast the flames rolled on. So here in the fifth stanza, the poetess is telling us that the boy cries out to his father once again, seeking his permission to move from that place. But then his voice could not be heard because of the booming shots. Here the booming shots mean the noise of guns taking place, the noise of the gunshots that is taking place in this battle, and the flames gushing and rolling high. Moving on to the sixth stanza of the poem. "Upon his brow he felt their breath, and in his waving hair, and looked from the lone post of death in still yet brave despair." So here the poetess is telling us that he felt the heat of the flames close to him, in his forehead, in his waving hair. And from there he saw that death was near. But he, in obedience, stood quiet and calm, and was ready to face death. And as he looked all around him, he was in despair. He thought that he had no more hope left in him. Moving on to the eighth stanza. "They wrapped the ship in splendor wild, they caught the flag on high, and streamed above the gallant child like banners in the sky." Here the poetess is telling us that the flames, the fire, surrounded the entire ship. Now the entire ship was burning, and the flames were so high that the flag that was flying high above was also on fire, and this entire flame also surrounded this gallant boy. Gallant here means brave boy. Wrapped means covered. Splendor here in this line means impressive beauty. And we're talking about the flames and the scene. Next we have the 9th stanza. There came a burst of thunder sound. The boy, oh, where was he? Asked of the winds that far around with fragments strewed the sea. So here the poet is saying that suddenly there was a big loud sound, a thunder sound. It's described as a thunder sound. And there was the boy. Nobody knew where was he. Only the winds that were blowing over the ship knew where the boy was lying dead. So here we have the keywords for this 9th stanza. Fragments mean pieces that were falling off the ship. The ship was on fire, it was burning, so the pieces falling from there were the fragments. And strewed here means all these pieces were spread or scattered. Coming to the last and the 10th stanza of this poem. With mast and helm and pennon fair, that well had borne their part, but the noblest thing which perished there was that young, faithful heart. So here the poetess is telling us, with mast here is the long pole upon which the sail hangs, and helm here means the wheel with which a ship is steered, like a rudder, helm. And pennon fair, your pennon means your triangular flag. They well had borne their part. Each of them had done their part. But the noblest thing which perished there, the noblest here means the child. Perished means died. The child that died there, that child was tender, young, courageous, obedient Casabianca. His name was Casabianca. So I hope you have all enjoyed this poem and the explanation part by part. I want you to go to these keywords. It will be up on your screen. Learn them and recite the poem in your own style, in your own way. And any queries, I'm still online. You can always type it in. And till then, we have the exercise. That is your comprehension exercise on page number 100. 4 questions are there. If you have time, please do it for classwork. Otherwise, continue it for homework. Alright children, thank you.